Welcome back everybody to another Darktide build guide. Today we are taking a look at another fun build that I've made, which is the melee Psyker. Now this is a build that I blow myself up with constantly because I suck with Assail, but this build also has great damage potential. You're a real glass cannon. You definitely really have some good sustain. So I'm going to go ahead and take you through the talent tree, then the weapons, and then the curios. Those will all be timestamped down below. Don't forget the channel just got to 3,000 watch hours, which means we can get monetized. Big first hallmark of the channel. Super appreciate you guys joining, subscribing, commenting, all that. Join the Discord down below if you want to play games with us. Join the live streams, all that. Super fun. Discord's growing really well. Let's go ahead and hop in to this talent tree. We're gonna try and go through it a little bit faster than usual, just because we can. And if you have any more questions, leave them in the comments down below. So first of all, we're going to start with metal. You can actually probably skip metal if you really want to, but I really like this 5% movement speed increase on crit hits, and we can really dish out some crit hits on this build as well. So we take metal is a really great one, and then we take warp expenditure, which is 2.5% toughness for every 10% peril generated. And the reason we're taking this warp expenditure is because we're using Scriers gaze down here, and that gives us basically an auto toughness generator whenever we're using our ability, as well as just whenever we're generating peril, which is all the time. Then we have a 10% chance to quell 10% peril on kill. This is fantastic, especially when you're using something like Assail. You're throwing your sails into like a horde. You're going to clear out the whole horde. You're going to get like 20 kills. You're probably going to quell a ton of peril, and this will help you keep you in your Scrier's gaze for a longer time. Is that how you say it? I don't know. Scriers, Sires, whatever. So then we have perfect timing. 3% warp damage for 10 seconds on crit hits, so we're stacking these crit hits. Stacks 5 times, that's up to 15% warp damage for getting crit hits. That's a huge bonus. Then we have 15 toughness. That's great. Make our Psyker a little tougher. You could go through Smite if you really want to. Maybe you suck with Assail, you don't like Assail, you like Smite. That's fine. But for this purpose of this build, I really recommend Assail. And we take all of our Assail bonuses that we can get as well, because we actually use Assail quite a lot in this build. And then we have a plus 5% toughness damage reduction. That's great. This Mind in Motion is great to take if you can get it. I find you don't really need it, especially because you can quell and dodge sideways, and that's almost the same thing as you can almost get up to like sprint speed doing that. So you just quell and dodge sideways instead of trying to just walk away, and you'll be just fine. So I think you can skip this talent perk. Then we have Malefic Momentum. 4% damage to warp attacks for 8 seconds on non-warp based kill. That's great because we're using a dueling sword in this build all the time, so we can have this Malefic Momentum damage bonus up very easily, very consistently. 5% toughness damage reduction is nice to take. We're stuck over on this side of the tree, and so we're going to take this 5% crit hit chance, which is nice because we are kind of rolling into crit hits, but they're maybe better things. Seer's Presence could also be really good. If you come over through here, Seer's Presence would be fantastic. But for the purpose of this build, I've got everything put on crit that I can put on crit. All right, and then we have crit hits make you count as dodging against range attacks for 1 second. This is fantastic. This really helps you in ranged combat, because if you're not counting as dodging, it's really easy to get blown up really fast by ranged enemies. So that's going to be an important factor to take gunner resistance on your curios. Very important for this build. I'd take it on every single curio. And then we have Anticipation. We have plus 50% dodge duration, increases number of dodges before dodges starts becoming ineffective by 1. Huge bonuses, especially since we're in melee close combat a lot with this Psyker build. Fantastic. 5% range damage. Okay, fine, whatever. We'll take it. Then we take Scrier's Gaze. So we have this, when entering Scrier's Gaze, you get plus 10% damage and plus 20% crit chance. For every second in Scrier's Gaze, you gain plus 1% damage up to a maximum of plus 30% damage. So I don't know if that totals out to a total of plus 30% damage or plus 40% damage, given that initial plus 10%. And then this effect also lingers for 10 seconds after leaving Scrier's Gaze. So once you get up to 100% peril, Scrier's Gaze will automatically end. So as long as you're automatically quelling peril, such as using this 10% chance to quell 10% peril on kill, or you're just quelling, you're going to be staying in Scrier's Gaze, but that peril ramp up will continue to increase. And this is when it can be really easy to blow yourself up when you're using your staff or using Assail. This increase rate ramps up to where it will be almost instantaneous, is extremely fast. You'll get to from like 0 to 100% peril in like 2 seconds. Just by doing absolutely nothing. So if you're just whipping out your Assails in the middle of a big fight, you've got Scrier's Gaze on, you start throwing out Assails, you can blow yourself up really easily with that. So you have to be skilled using this build to not blow yourself up, because we don't have Venting Shriek to crutch ourselves on accidentally not blowing ourselves up. I currently have Scrier's Gaze reduces your peril generation by 20%. as well as increases your movement speed by 20%, and grants 20% toughness damage reduction while active. And that's because when I go into melee combat, I pop Scriers Gaze, and you can go off in melee combat when you pop this, and you can just go in there and you can hack away and hit all the guys you want to, and you'll just be going to town forever. Now you could also definitely take instead of reality anchor, you could take precognition, especially since we're using the damage, the dueling sword. You could really get some more pokey stabbies in there and some more damage with the dueling sword because of these you know, finesse bonuses and yeah, and weak spot hits. Is that? Yeah, weak spot kills. Yeah, so you get a lot of weak spot kills with the dueling sword and finesse bonus. That's great, but don't really need to take that. I like the reality anchor because it gets to leave us in Scriers Gaze longer. Okay, so then we come down to a plus 5% crit chance. You know, we love our crit chance on this build. Plus 10% health is very nice. And then, you know, you just have to come over to Warp Rider, up to 20% damage from all sources based on your current peril. That's just so easy to, you know, build peril, use, build peril, use. And you don't have to think about it. It's just working for you. You're a Psyker. You're playing at high peril anyways most of the time. Yeah, can't go wrong with that. We have 5% crit chance. We have a kinetic deflection. While below crit peril, blocking attack causes you to gain peril instead of losing stamina. This can easily turn your Psyker into the biggest blocking tank in the entire game, especially if you have a little bit stamina added to your Psyker as well. I mean, you'll just be the absolute tankiest thing ever. I have kited demon hosts with this build. Not this one in particular, but using kinetic deflection for a very long time. Very good, very good. And then we have more movement speed is always nice to have. Landing. I'll say this is a very interesting part because I'm using a trauma, or no, the oh, what the heck is it called? Sorry, it's gonna be cut off on the screen. The Void Strike Force Staff. Okay, so I'm using the Void Strike Force Staff. I always forget its name. So true aim. Landing 5 weak spot hits grants your next ranged attack a guaranteed critical hit. Well, on my Force Staff, you know, it's kind of a strange staff, and it's definitely not optimal. And you can use whatever staff or weapon, main weapon you really want to on this build, to be honest. But for me, I'm using the Force Staff because I just thought it would be fun to use. And I have the blessing that makes it do 2 shots on crit. So if you hit a crit, it just doubles your damage, essentially. So so I just hit 5 weak spot hits, and then I can whip out my staff, charge up a big shot, and then I get 2 big shots for the price of 1. Okay, and then in addition to that, I also apply Soul Blaze on crit, which is the blessing that is not really the best. You could definitely take a different one, like faster chain shots. That would be probably way better. But for this instance, I just went everything on the crit since I get guaranteed crit. I apply Soul Blaze and I hit the double shots, which is really fun because you know the bubbles don't kill everybody, so you'll apply Soul Blaze to the guys that you kind of glancingly hit, and then you'll blow up whoever you need to blow up as well. Super fun. I recommend it. I think it's really fun. But you can totally run like your Surge Staff, Purge Staff, the Trauma Force Staff. Like you could, or you know, the Columnus Autogun. You could run anything as your primary on this build. And then we take our Disrupt Destiny. Now, I love using Disrupt Destiny, but honestly, if you hate this ability, you don't like it, you can come over here to Empowered Psychonics. You could use that. Or you could even find a way to come all the way over down into, you know, warp charges. And you could go, if you did that, I would go warp charge. I would honestly take this replenish 30% toughness on gaining warp charge, because that will make you really tough in combat, in melee combat. Increase the damage, that's great. And then whatever enemy incoherency, a 4% change to gain warp charge, that's great. Don't use the Infire Reborn unless you're literally using the perk staff. If you're not using the perk staff, never use that. And then yeah, you could take the 6 warp charges. If you could figure that out, that'd be a great path to take. But you're gonna be a little strapped for points to get all the way over there probably. And then of course you can take the Empowered Psychonics and really lean into using the Assails if you want. But you know, I don't think the Assails are just not as great as they used to be, but you could absolutely just lean into using the Assails, but that's more of an Assail build. And what we're really leaning into here is using the melee Psyker build. So we have that 15 toughness boost, and then we use Disrupt Destiny. So enemies within 25 meters have a chance of being marked. I wish it was maybe buffed to like 15 meters or something, or 10 meters, so that they're closer, because sometimes they spawn really far away from you. It's really annoying. Yeah, so killing a marked enemy replenishes 10% toughness, gains 20% movement speed for 2.5 seconds, and adds a precision bonus for 15 seconds. Each precision bonus grants 1% damage bonus, 2% crit damage, and 2.5% weak spot damage. Precision bonus stacks 15 times, okay? So this just gives you a ton of weak spot damage, okay? It just gives you more damage and more weak spot damage overall. It just gives you, it's just across the board more damage for everything. So that's just really great, especially since we're a melee combat Psyker that's going for weak spot hits. Very nice to have. And then we have, we take Purloin Providence. So, or Purlian I don't know. Killing enemies marked by Disrupt Destiny have 20% chance to instantly quell 15% of your peril. So this is really fantastic, especially if you're fighting a horde and you're using your Assails while using Disrupt Destiny. You can totally clear out a lot of enemies, and this Purloin Providence in combination with your battle meditation makes you just an automatic peril quelling monster, especially if you're focused on going for those blue highlighted enemies. I am taking Perfectionism, which gives you an increase from 15 stacks to 30 stacks. But the problem is, when these stacks expire after 15 seconds, they're gone. They're just totally gone, which is really annoying, and I really don't like that about this build. So if you run out of those 15, if you go 15 seconds without killing a blue highlighted guy, all your stacks are gone. Super annoying, and it can be problematic. So if you find that your stacks are always expired and you're getting annoyed by that, just come over here and take Lingering Influence instead. You still get 15 stacks, so that's still huge bonuses. But they last 30 seconds before they totally expire, which is nice. So that's a different balance out that you could take. But I'm taking Perfectionism because you have to focus a little bit more on going for the blue guys, but you can really double your bonuses from the entire ability. So I really like it. And then weak spot kills grant 2 additional stacks of Disrupt Destiny. So you weak spot kill your blue highlighted guy, you get 3 stacks of Disrupt Destiny instead of just 1. Super great. So let's go ahead and hop over into the weapons, and I'll show you guys what I'm running on this build. So for the weapons, the most important weapon that we have here, and the one that makes the build for me at least, I mean, of course, I suppose that you could use any melee weapon that you really want to for the Psyker. However, I'm going to have to say that the Mark IV Dueling Sword is probably one of the most busted melee weapons in the entire game. So just right off the bat, you're probably gonna have to go with the dueling sword, but it's absolutely a fantastic melee weapon, and its damage potential against carapace and flak armored enemies, just any armored enemies in the game whatsoever, is fantastic. As well as if you hit a well-aimed heavy attack, you can just one-shot mutants, especially if you have our weak spot bonuses and stuff up from our talent tree, or just any of our damage bonuses up for our talent tree. So it's just really absolutely ridiculous. For this dueling sword, I have the most important modifiers are damage, I'd say finesse and penetration, because we are rolling for that crit chance on this build, so we want to have good finesse, and having good mobility as well, because we are in actual close combat. And I'd say cleave damage is the least important, because you're mostly doing heavy attacks with this build, so your cleave is not really as focused on, but it definitely helps if you can get it. But if you can't get it, cleave damage I'd say is definitely the most dump stat out of all these. The most important two are damage and penetration, and finesse following that. So then we have our perks. For the perks, I'm taking maniac damage and flak armored enemy damage. You could potentially take unyielding damage. I do notice that this sword really only struggles up against bulwarks, which is fine because bulwarks aren't really that dangerous. You know, they're pretty easy to dodge, they're pretty slow, they're just kind of annoying, especially when they come out in large groups of bulwarks. So I find this dueling sword, this entire build really struggles with bulwarks, but that's the only enemy in the game it really struggles with. So yeah, so unyielding damage would be nice, and it'll also help you stab some monstrosities a little bit better as well. So maybe drop the, I don't know, I would drop the flak armor before I drop the maniac armor to take unyielding damage, so you could do that. And then for the blessings, I have Rampage. I don't know how much this ability really helps. I think you could probably drop off Rampages if you want, because you're doing a lot of one-shotting, heavy attacking, poking guys in the weak spot. So I don't really know how often Rampage really gets activated. I haven't paid that much attention. So I think if there's another blessing you really want to run, you can just drop off Rampage, grab something else that's pretty good, like I don't know what the other abilities are for the dueling sword, like Riposte or something that gives you increased crit chance on dodge or whatever would be really great, especially since we're running like a crit chance build. So that would be really good. But the most important one that you have to take is Uncanny Strike. So 20% rating on enemy weak spot hit for 3.5 seconds, stacks 5 times. This is the ability that lets you just chew through crushers. You know, I think there's an Uncanny Strike 4 that I don't even have. This ability just lets you absolutely eat through crushers. I think, honestly, you can just like 4-shot crushers in the head. I'm not entirely sure. I haven't done the exact math on that, but you can literally just whip out the dueling sword, start dodge dancing in front of a crusher, poking him in the head, or just hit him with a few quick light attacks, and then go for some heavy attacks, and like it deletes their armor capability. It just makes carapace like crushers, maulers, these scab maulers, you know, the things that you'd worry about usually, that like basically no melee weapon in the game is really great at taking on. The dueling sword is just like a total can opener and just goes straight through them. It's absolutely kind of ridiculous. So yeah, that is the Mark IV dueling sword. It's busted. I highly recommend it. It's probably the best melee weapon in the game for any particular character. It's unbalanced as can be. It's incredibly good, especially because on the dueling sword as well, you get incredible mobility. You get like full dodge distance while the dueling sword is out, so you can dodge super far, super mobile, super fast, you know, all that. Yeah, it's great. So then we get into the ranged weapon that I'm using for this build, and like I said, you can use any ranged weapon you want. You could use the perk staff, the surge staff, you know, auto gun Psyker type setup. You could really do anything you want. However, I am running this Void Strike Force staff that is set up for some fun, gimmicky crit interactions. So the most important thing that we want on this build is damage, and honestly, you really need to have good charge rate. Unfortunately, I only have 56% on my charge rate, and I haven't bothered to try and fix this staff. I'm not going to, because I don't think I'm going to use it a whole lot, but blast radius, damage, and charge rate are really important for this. Quell speed and warp resistance are honestly not as important, but you know, honestly, all these are important for this staff, but you definitely have to have good damage and good charge rate. I'd say the most important too, because we want to whip this staff out and you want to charge up a big shot, and if you can't get that full charge shot charged up, that sucks. Charge rate didn't used to matter so much because it charged fast, but I believe the staff got nerfed, and that nerf has caused it to have a very long charge rate compared to what it used to, I think, so that's kind of annoying. But anyways, on to the perks. I take 5% increased crit strike chance because I can, because we are a crit damage build, especially focused on the blessings. So, and then we take a plus 8% ranged crit hit damage, just so we can have some more ranged crit hit damage when we hit those crits. And if you remember from the talent tree, we're whipping out this staff after we've hit 5 weak spot hits with our I don't know if Assails count as weak spot hits towards this, but I know the dueling swords should. So you whip out your dueling sword, you hit those 5 crit weak spot hits with those, or maybe you hit 5 weak spot hits with your Assail if that works. I'm not entirely sure. And then you can whip out your Void Strike Force staff, and you give them a good charge shot. And the most important blessing to have on here is Surge. You know, you could put something else on instead of a Blazing Spirit. Blazing Spirit is not really that great or important, but I like to have it because it's funny. Especially if you have, you know, Wildfire and something on, you know, Blazing Spirit could be a lot better. You want to try and make like a Void Strike Force staff, Soul Blaze kind of build. That could be super cool, but we're not doing that at the moment. So Blazing Spirit could come off, but it does apply Soul Blaze to things that it's like glancingly hits. You know, maybe it doesn't kill. You shoot it through a large shot through a huge horde. You know, it won't kill a lot of those guys, but it will. Oh, inactivity detected. Anyways, about to get kicked from the Darktide servers. Anyway, yeah, you can get rid of Blazing Spirit, put something else on. Surge, 2 shots on crit hit. That's insane. So you just, you know, you see a Crusher or something coming at you, you whip this bad boy out, you give him a full charge shot, you essentially hit him with two crit hits, right? Is on critical hit, you get 2 shots. So is the second shot a crit hit? I don't know, but the first shot is certainly a crit hit. So you absolutely annihilate anything large with this that's coming at you. This is a absolute blast cannon. You know, you whip this out and you pick the one guy on the screen you want to blow up and you shoot that at him. So yeah, this is the Void Strike Force staff I'm running. Again, run whatever your best ranged weapon is for this build. You know, you could run all kinds of ranged weapons for this build. Perhaps something that's better at clearing out large hordes, like a Purge staff would be really good. And you could use the Surge staff too, just to keep some enemies at bay or something. I don't know. You could really run anything you want, but I will say the build struggles with bulwarks and monstrosities a little bit. So running something that was good at staggering bulwarks, such as the Void Strike Force staff or the Trauma staff. Honestly, the Trauma staff would be really great for this build as well. And the Trauma staff, I'd say, is much more meta, quote unquote, at the moment than the Force staff, especially if you're running a good Trauma staff, which I haven't looked into, but I know there are really good ones out there. I've seen people drop huge damage numbers with the Trauma staffs. curios now. So for the curios for this build, first of all, I am taking a health curio and then 2 toughness curios. And notice that this build is really easy to blow yourself up with, and I'm not running any extra wounds. So honestly, I would maybe drop the health or one of the toughness curios for an extra wound if you're really worried about that. But so first I'm taking a health curio with health rolled onto it, so I have plus 25% max health with that. That's nice. Then of course we take our gunner resistance because it's almost necessary for this build. I have revive speed locked on here. It's not the worst, but it's not the best. You know, other things that I would recommend taking is plus 5% toughness, stamina regeneration, block efficiency, plus damage resistance to gunners is already on here, and then stamina regeneration is also extremely powerful if I didn't already just say that. You know, there's lots of things you could take in here that are really good. And then we have a toughness with a 5% toughness added on that, and I'm trying to toy around with taking a plus 30% toughness regeneration speed on all of them, or on 2 of my curios. I'm gonna see how that works. I don't know if it'll be terrible or if it'll be really funny. But it might make our toughness regen just hilarious. And then we have plus 15% toughness, plus 20% damage resistance to gunners again, plus 5% toughness, great. And then we have plus 15% toughness again, and then plus 30% toughness regeneration speed, plus, on here I have 4% max health instead of toughness. I guess that's fine, you know, whatever. And then I have order dockets because why not? So yeah, those are the curios, and now that is all for the video, guys. I really thank you guys for taking a watch at the video, you know. Hope you enjoy the Psyker gameplay. I find this build is really fun to just get in there and slash at guys with, and I find it's honestly probably better than my other melee Psyker build that I've made in the past, which is more of like a gun Psyker, I guess, for the Columbus autogun. So I guess that wasn't really a melee Psyker build. This is definitely a melee Psyker build, and I love the dueling sword. You know, poking guys with the dueling sword. This thing is absolutely probably one of the most busted weapons in the entire game right now. The way it just chews through carapace armor is ridiculous. Yeah, but anyways, like, comment, subscribe. Hope you guys have a fantastic day. Hope to see you guys in the live streams. I will see you later.